This podcast contains an English accent that most of our Irish listeners will find offensive. Also, there may be some colourful language that you're going to find less offensive. Now, over to Ryan and Leon. Enjoy the podcast.
Hey everyone, Ryan here. We'll start the show just a bit differently this week. Whenever you tune in, you hear the voice of Lisa Downey. The funny intro that we've got. Lisa's not just my lovely girlfriend, but she's the daughter of Paddy Downey. Paddy was the designer of our wonderful logo, and we had to say goodbye to Paddy a couple of weeks ago, which is why there's been a small gap in the show. Paddy was always a huge supporter of the podcast. He was always interested in the poetry work that I did, and he came to every kind of event that he could. Actually, on the day of my book launch last April, he left the hospital where he was getting treatment and got a taxi straight to Farry and Draper in South William Street in Dublin just to come and support me. I shared a lot of laughs with Paddy over the last 2 years, and he was a big poetry fan. He loved poetry, and what we thought we'd do, we'd ask Lisa to give a little tribute to her dad, who had sadly left us. So here is Lisa's wonderful tribute to just a brilliant man that is going to be hugely missed.
My daddy Paddy had the biggest heart in Ireland. He was one of the most giving people. He gave with his love, with his energy, with money, with time, with advice. And during COVID, some of us may remember that Dublin Zoo were struggling for funding. And I thought no better present to give him than to adopt an animal so that we can raise funds for Dublin Zoo. So my daddy Paddy wrote a poem, and I'm going to read it out to you, and it's just called Dublin Zoo. We got the news that Dublin Zoo was in trouble. Their money was beginning to run out. COVID-19 meant they had no visitors, as no one was allowed out and about. So calls went out to help fund the animals, who could suffer through no fault of their own. People reacted as they only know how, through donations over the phone. My daughter tried to help in her own little way, and she bought me an adoption pack. So now a Western Lowland gorilla we adopted, a male one known as a silverback. You get a certificate of adoption and a pen, a bag, a photo amongst others, including a complimentary ticket to the zoo, so you can see all the baby animals with their mothers. He loves a good old rhyme, Daddy Paddy. And Dublin Zoo wrote back to him and said, "This is brilliant. Thanks a million for sharing this lovely poem and for supporting Save Dublin Zoo campaign." And then my wonderful father, who was not only a great poet and a great man, but he was also quite hilarious, he wrote back saying, "Thanks for keeping our animals in good shape, and also might have to call on you for some gorilla advice. He just seems to be eating everything in the house. #adoption." Always one for the funny comebacks. Poetry is such a magical thing. It can open our hearts and minds. We are so lucky on this podcast that we have Ryan and Leon exploring new poets and new territories and opening up our hearts. And I was very lucky that my daddy Paddy would write a poem in every single birthday card, and I cherish those forever. And one Father's Day in 2015, I attempted to do a poem, and I'm going to read it to you, but I have no words to describe how amazing he is. He will always be amazing to me, and I'm so grateful that I had him and that he loved me so much and made me who I am. And this one's for you, Daddy Paddy. There once was a man named Paddy, who I am lucky to have as my daddy. Some say I'm like him, good looks and non-aging skin. He's intelligent and strong, has taught me right from wrong. He's got a heart of gold, a personality that could never be sold. Thank you for everything, for creating memories here and in the sun. I think when it comes to fathers, I've definitely won. I definitely won, Daddy.
It's funny, It's obvious that we haven't seen each other for that long because we've already been woofing on before the show for about 40 minutes about poetry that we've been reading and listening to.
We've been giving away our secrets off air.
Yeah.
And we should have been putting it on the air.
We should have been recording for the last hour.
Sweet content that's just been...
Seamusini.
We've been talking about all sorts, to be
All
honest.
sorts.
We've already started talking about things with the show, and we went obviously on tangents galore.
Yeah.
Went down on rabbit holes, poetry rabbit holes.
Yeah, they're good rabbit holes, though.
They are good, yeah. No rabbits though, unfortunately.
How have you been? I was seeing you for a few
I've been
weeks.
alright. I feel like I haven't seen you in ages.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
There's lots of build-up of stuff to talk about now, though, isn't there?
We always have stuff to talk about. You know, we'd usually finish our podcast fairly quickly, and then we'd sit around for 3 hours talking afterwards.
Yeah, we definitely do.
There's usually wine and cheese involved as well.
There's
But,
no
you
wine
know,
today because
no.
you're training for a marathon.
An ultra marathon.
Sorry, an ultra
I have
marathon.
to say ultra now, you know. Yeah,
Jesus Christ, my apologies.
So it's. But I'm drinking a kombucha at the moment, trying to be healthy.
Yeah.
Do you know, one kombucha will cure all ailments that I've given to my body for the last 32 years.
Yeah, one bottle.
One bottle.
Sorted.
It's like, you know, it's like WD-40 just fixes all sorts. You know, knee pain kombucha.
So you're prepping for that. So no wine, no cheese, but
No cursing.
poems galore.
I'll be rubbing palms on my sore joints,
Yeah.
just hoping that they heal me.
I don't think a poem's going to help you with that run. 50 odd kilometres, is it?
53 kilometres.
Fuck me.
Yeah, but I don't know. Fuck it. Might as well give it a go and see what happens. If the legs fall off, I'll just get new ones. Go to Deals.
Nice.
IKEA, maybe get some flat pack legs and stick them back on.
Yeah,
Grand.
done. Easy.
Not bad.
Well, on the show we've got the great agony on, haven't we, for this week about structure and routine, and you've got something written for that, so can't wait to hear that. I haven't heard it yet, so I'm buzzed for that. We're going to talk about you were you were the featured act yesterday at the Fingal Poetry Slam.
I was a judge as well.
You were a judge as well.
First time judging, I have to say. It was stressful because everyone was really good.
Yeah,
and then you're
they
focusing,
tend to be.
You get lost in a poem and then you realise you have to judge it as well. So like when a poem draws you in and you're like watching a movie you really enjoy, and then you're like, oh fuck, I have to take notes.
Score out of 10.
Yeah, and then I have to score, and then it's like, and then also with slams you have to kind of decide which poem is better than others, which I find strange because poetry, like
fun, especially when you're performing them as well. You're like, we'll talk about it when we're talking about it.
We talk about it.
Yeah.
Of course. Down on the
tangent. I want to hear because you can do the poem from the guy who won it actually. So I'm looking forward to that. And I want to kick things off with maybe someone who is now part of the TikTok social media poetry kind of zeitgeist, like really popular. Like I didn't know about Emily Dickinson until TikTok, which is really weird. Yeah, because like I see tons of clips of her work, music in the background, and then like maybe it's like a black background, and then handwritten poems from Emily Dickinson.
When was she around?
Emily Dickinson, American poet, born in 1830. I think she had 2 poems published in her lifetime. When she passed away, her family made it a project to get in touch with the people that she was writing letters to, and then she became a female Walt Whitman, like one of the most influential American poets of her time, without ever being in her own time successful in any way.
Wasn't it Van Gogh that happened to him as well? Or Van
Did that
Gogh?
happen to him?
I think that he got more success after he died.
I was trying to think of other people that I knew that didn't get any recognition during their time, and I couldn't think of anyone.
Edgar Allan Poe we covered. He was told he was terrible until he kind of died, and then they're like, oh, he's actually very, very intelligent. So fortunately, certain artists out there, you know, when something happens,
that's the mystique maybe as well of that person.
Maybe it makes people take a look at it with a second kind of perspective.
Yeah, but what I find interesting about Emily, so like her poetry was bunched up in like parcels basically that was hidden in her room. That was her life, and she'd written. I mean, at the time, not that I think at the time people thought of her as a letter writer. She wasn't. She was just someone who was known as a wit, like an educated woman who wasn't really partaking in social stuff. She didn't want to get involved in any of the church stuff. She was born in Massachusetts in a small town, so big on religion. So I think the standard life of a woman back then was you're educated if you're lucky. If you're not, you live as a housewife. You have children, and you nod along basically. And Emily didn't do any of that. Wow. She didn't nod along. She was a critique on the working world, a feminist, but I don't think she would say she was. She was just more of a voice of a challenging voice at the time.
An independent spirit
and an independent thinker. And what I find very interesting is she obviously knew that her words would be heavy on some people, because she wouldn't have spent so long picking out people to write letters to. So she would identify cultural icons of the day and just send them letters, and then get into like not romantic relationships, but like letter-based relationships with essay writers or journalists or politicians. So she obviously knew that something was happening with her that was interesting. Yeah. She wasn't a recluse, not in the way that you'd think. Like, she wasn't like hiding in a room. She just found it way more interesting as a pastime, let's say, to speak to people through letters. And she must have known that at some point people would have read them, because why would she do it for that long?
You can take time with a letter, and you can do drafts and kind of rework it into.
And she did do that.
Yeah, and make it kind of very articulate and well spoken, and then send it on to somebody. And it's a slow form of information as opposed to just having a conversation where you can just say whatever you want off the top of your head.
And I'd say at the time, maybe that was the only outlet for a woman who wanted to be heard.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about 1850s, 1860s in Southern America. Like, I can't see many chances for someone to feel heard.
Can you imagine, like, if somebody was like in that situation now, right, current day, and they passed away, would someone like publish their emails?
I don't think
How
so.
How shit would they be? Just touching base. Yours sincerely.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean.
The passive aggressive emails.
My emails at work are hope you're in top form. That's my change. Like, not hope all is well. Hope you're in top form.
Top form.
That's the only thing I've got to bring to the table in email letter writing.
This person I work with, and they say forever yours.
Forever yours.
Forever yours.
What?
And I'm like,
what?
It's brilliant.
That is wild. Forever yours. Towards the end of her life, Emily Dickinson used to just sign off her letters as Dickinson.
Ooh.
I think your gnome was one sign off as well. She used to write your gnome.
Your gnome,
yeah,
garden gnome.
Garden gnome, yeah. Like, maybe it's a silent but consistent feature in the person's life. Maybe that's what she was going for. Yeah. Your gnome, your scholar as well.
Your scholar.
She's obviously quite a very witty person, and her language. She loved language. That was her world. Her world was language, and one of her poems that I have always loved. Let me read you this poem, Neil.
Please do.
The poem is called "Hope is the Thing with Feathers." Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. And sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm that could abash the little bird that kept so many warm. I've heard it in the chillest land and on the strangest sea, yet never in extremity it asked a crumb of me.
That was Hope is a Thing with Feathers by Emily Dickinson. And I will tell you something, I actually found out of Emily Dickinson through my sister, who's doing the Leaving Cert at the moment. And it's on the Leaving Cert. She was talking to me about Emily Dickinson, and it just happened that you brought up that lovely poem. So if my sister's listening and it's on the Leaving Cert, now you can listen to it.
Yeah.
And you've a few facts to put in your Leaving Cert paper one.
Definitely. You're more than welcome. Right. And it's way more interesting than you let your teacher go like, and line 2 of that poem means, she's like, oh, would you leave me alone?
Yeah. It's about fucking feathers. All right. And crumbs.
Crumbs. Of what?
It's an unusual. We're only just saying there. It's an unusual turn of phrase. A crumb of me, but it's a beautiful. It catches your attention at the end.
It does.
But even so, like with letter writing, which you're talking about there, Like, I'm reading a book at the moment. It's Hunter S. Thompson's Time in Rolling Stone magazine, right? But it's a collection of his essays, but it's also a collection of his letters with the editor. But this is in like the 70s, and how letter writing was so prevalent back then. But how when was the last time you wrote a letter to somebody?
Maybe school, maybe uni. I don't even know.
I can't fucking tell you the last time I wrote a letter. Like not an official letter, but like a normal letter. I can't remember the last time I wrote a letter. No. Like, you know,
Cillian Murphy talks about when he was first starting out as an actor, would send letters to potential directors that he wanted to work with as an introduction to who he was. And he was saying he didn't get the jobs, but whenever he met that person later in life, they'd always go, "You're that guy who wrote me that letter."
It sticks with you. Brilliant. Do you want to hear who I want to talk about?
I do, yeah.
So I've been busy the last few weeks. I'm very busy. But I went to see... Busy man doing busy things. But I went to see the great and powerful Harry Baker.
Harry Baker.
English fellow. Rapper extraordinaire.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting person. So went to see him. He was on stage talking about how he did a degree in mathematics. And it made sense because his poems are very... they're often quite lighthearted and funny and very engaging, but they're very structured and sometimes as well. Like there's almost like a mathematical... You can tell there's a mathematical...
algebra, like things going on, calculations of
there's
like
a
words
mathematical
different words, and
there's a mathematical mind working there.
Yeah.
So it's like, imagine like a creative brain comes together with a mathematical... usually people say like, I'm a maths, I like numbers more than words, and or creative brain, I like drawing and I like art and stuff like that. Harry Baker just has fucking both.
Yeah.
And he can rap and he can write poetry, and he did a very interesting poem with at the gig, and it's from his new book called Wonderful, which will be out in the next few weeks. He's on tour at the moment and he's selling his books at his gigs. I think he has a few with him on his journey. But he did a poem. I have the Google definition, because I want to tell you what it is. So this is a form of poetry, univocalic. I didn't know what this meant.
I still don't know what it means.
Univocalic is a type of antillipogrammatic. Sounds like a fucking poem already. Constrained writing that uses only consonants and a single vowel. So he wrote a poem that only used one vowel throughout the whole thing, but he only used one, and it was the vowel I. And he wrote a whole poem. This poem is called Ingrid.
Blow me away, man.
St. Philip's, 6 p.m. Mr. Smith is spinning discs. Mrs. Sills brings nibbly bits, crisps, dips, pick and mix, mini fish and chips, Lidl's pink stripy rings, fizzy drinks. I'm thinking, this is sick. I spy with my tiny iris Ingrid. Ingrid is Finnish, I think. Whitish trim, Viking skin, stylish kicks. I'm in bits. My skin is tingling. Why is this shirt itchy? This isn't simply shy, I'm bricking it. I timidly try. Hi. I'm sipping my milk. Slick. It slips. I'm livid. My iris is filling with drips. It stings. Ingrid chips in. Why cry? It's spilt milk. I'm dying. Wishing invisibility hits. Minimizing this cringing fit, still Ingrid is kind, insisting I trick my mind. Ingrid grins impishly. Try this.
That was Ingrid by Harry Baker, taken from his new collection, Wonderful. It's not fucking normal. What he just done.
Like, that's not even...
How do you do that? Like,
that's not even the full poem. I just wanted to give a little kind of teaser, a little
like,
taster of the power of Harry Baker. Like, but that's a different fucking level.
Yeah, that's not the same as anything we've spoken about before.
Do you know what I mean? We're playing checkers and he's playing fucking PlayStation 5.
Yeah.
Like,
and you know what, Harry? You can play it, man.
You can keep the crown.
I'm not there, and you live there, brother. Oh my god! Wow, that was so, and it makes you so like I was so happy when you were reading that out. Like I was literally smiling with glee, waiting for the next line.
Yeah.
Hopefully, everybody listened to that felt the same way that I did. Just gleeful. Like
how does he come up with them fucking ideas? Like how does he make it? And like that poem was quite long when he actually performed it, like the whole thing.
Yeah.
It just blew my mind, and that's why like I reached out to him. I was like, look, do you mind if we'd love to kind of get this on the pod. Like it's just, and he's so nice as well. Like he gave me, and like this is a brand new piece, and he's like, yeah, like just here's a bit of it. And I was like, oh, thanks so much. Just want to give it, read it out. I just want people to experience this. Like
he is an experience.
Yeah.
So like, thanks, Harry. I want to talk about Aine Budds.
Ooh,
Aine Budds. On Instagram, she's Flower Budds. And Budds is a Budds. I think Aine writes wonderful poetry. It's got humour, and it's about love, but it's also kind of mixes her life, her full-time life as a chef.
Okay.
And she works at Alta, which is a restaurant in the Docklands in Dublin. But she's like, there's an article about her in the Irish Times last year of like ones to watch for 2024.
Wow.
So big deal in the culinary world.
Yeah. And
I feel like maybe there's a hidden dream of mine one day that I want to work in a kitchen. Like we were talking about the other week. Like, I think I love to cook anyway. Like I have a lot of get a lot of love from the kitchen. But like definitely recently watching things like Boiling Point or.
So you watch Boiling Point and you want to be a chef.
Basically. I just think the fire about it and the tension,
the passion.
Yeah, the passiones. Listen. Obviously, if you work in a fucking kitchen, I'm sure you want to. You might not have that same romanticism about it, let's say, but and the camaraderie as well, the family of the kitchen workers. Surely there's like listen. Maybe this is just someone who's read Anthony Bourdain and going, maybe I want to be him. I don't know. But I romanticise the kitchen life big time.
You're going to start doing heroin, are you?
No.
Travelling the world doing heroin.
I won't be doing that. I won't be.
Yeah, man listens to this. I'm not going to. He won't be listening to it, okay? Just I won't let him.
No. Aine wrote a poem called Greasy Love.
Ooh.
And I'm going to read it to you, pal.
I hope so.
Greasy Love. Don't give me that romantic bull. This girl wants a greasy love with salt and extra vinegar. Win me over with a cheeky lamb doner and make love to me in the local chipper. Please, let's get knee deep in MSG. Sweep me off my feet with some cheap melted cheese, or seduce me with the splendour of a few chicken tenders. Really get the night going with spicy pork gyozas and a portion of prawn toast for 4. Indulge in the sin of ordering in and keep me sweet on a feast with no cutlery.
That was Aine Budds with Greasy Love.
Greasy Love.
I fucking love that title.
Yeah.
Greasy Love, baby.
Oh, man.
Grease is the love, is the love.
Is the time, is the place.
Is the motion.
That's beautiful, isn't it, that?
Oh, it's amazing. And you can find it Flower Budds.
Flower Budds, Budds.
On Instagram.
And I think she's out and about when she's not doing... Well, she's not in the kitchen with Elsa. I think she's doing bits now on the poetry scene, so you might see if you fancy going to any of the open mic sessions that are in Dublin, I'm sure.
I'll ask her to make me a kebab.
I think she'd be more than happy to do so.
I had a Zaytowns for lunch. I had a mixed kebab.
But the level of decadence of having a kebab at lunchtime is the indulgence of you.
I know, yeah.
Unbelievable.
Eating like a Persian Henry VIII. like a sultan. Do you know?
If you weren't running, you'd die of the gout.
This is why I fucking run. I'm running
so
away
you can have... Do you have garlic cheesy chips as well?
No, I had a regular chip, but they always put a little season on the chips. But I had a little garlic dip.
Mm-mm.
But even the garlic dip doesn't feel that bad. Like it's not like like the Domino's dip that you get when you put in your pizza.
Filthy.
Absolute filth. Like you could leave like space food. Like you could leave that there for 100 years and it'd probably taste exactly the same. But the Zaytowns, garlic mayo. It also it feels like a yogurt, like a garlicky kind of yogurt. So it's alright. But I got a mixed kebab and it was fabulous. And I was like,
bit of a tip. I don't know if it's a pro tip. I don't know if Anya would appreciate this, but sometimes when I get a Domino's, I save the dip and use it as a chicken marinade for kebabs and stuff.
Filthy.
Just like marinate it overnight in that sauce and then put it on the grill. Beautiful, honestly.
Maybe you should work in the kitchen.
Yeah, I love it.
Maybe you can make me a kebab.
Maybe I will, if you're lucky. You were, we said at the start, so you were at the Fingal Poetry Slam.
Fingal Poetry Slam, yeah.
About slams in general. I've done a few slams. You've won some incredible slams.
And lost a few. And
I've lost all of mine. How was it, first of all? Like, you performed on it as well, I think?
So I got to judge, and then I did a little set at the end. And it was great. It was really nice. It was in Balbriggan Library, so it was a beautiful location upstairs. Yeah. And I think there was 12 poets competing, and they did a poem each. And then it was decided who there was first, second, and third, and then the top 3 get to go to the Grand Slam in the Fingal Poetry Festival in September, which is in Skerries. So there'll be there's a couple of slams each month. Well, each month there'll be a slam, and then there's a Grand Slam at the end. So there's a few beforehand, so people can still sign up. So any poets in Dublin at the moment or further afield, you can definitely watch out for these, and you can get involved, and you could be going to the Grand Slam yourself, and you could be battling the winner I saw last night. So some fabulous poets though. Yeah, so like one of the runner ups was Jessie Flood. She was phenomenal. Did a poem about the housing crisis and how I think she's a parole officer, so she's dealing with kind of people from the prison systems and kind of going out and all. And
interesting eye on the world then if you work in that kind of gig.
Yeah, and it's like how some of them kind of prefer prison because of the routine, and how they're out on the street. Then they, they've something. It's almost worse out there than it is inside. And
wow,
it's so sad to think like that. But the poem is just so beautiful and so eloquent as well. And then obviously we had our fabulous winner as well of the night, Kev Kennedy.
Yeah,
you can find them on Instagram. Heavy Kevy.
Heavy Kevy,
part of the Sauce Gang Collective. Them saucy boys. Very different to his poetry, It's like a 6-piece band, I think it is. They're rapping, with their tops off, sweating. It's fucking great.
Amazing.
But Kevy did a lovely poem, and I have it here for actually. So I'm going to read it out. I hope Kevy will forgive me. I don't butcher his poem, but it's called Manky Candle.
Manky Candle.
And I've heard him before. He's fucking brilliant. You have to listen to him down it. He's so good. But I'm going to read it out for our listeners just so they get a little taste of Kevy's work. So, Manky Candle. You're burning the candle at both ends, she said. You realise that you can't keep this up forever. Like I always say, your health is your wealth and you should treasure your pleasures, but maybe sometimes half measures are for the best. Jesus, wept Kev, look at yourself. She pulled down the visor on the passenger side, and I locked eyes with my reflection for the first time in, well, I don't know how long. She wasn't wrong. I did look wrecked. Overworked, underslept, the bags under the eyes are starting to resemble turkey necks. But all due respect, I'm happy. Happiest I've been in years. But she had a point. I guess I am burning the candle at both ends. However, this candle doesn't give off the nicest of scents, it's more of a stench. No fresh aroma of a swanky Yankee candle you'd find on the high street. More of a skanky manky candle you'd buy from a stall down the back streets. One that reeks of sweaty feet, kebab meat and half a week of bad sleep. Still, I'll sacrifice the energy for making memories. And the flicker of that candle will cast light on the dark days I have ahead of me. Days where the lights are out, but I'm still home. Scouring the floors and corridors in search of a more fulfilling way of living. Rather than just on a wing and a prayer as jackdaws and Jesuits patrol the air and beyond. I remain lost in search of a nest or some divine intervention. Or inspiration. Anything at all to break this cycle of self-confrontation. At this stage I've went 12 rounds with myself more times than I can count. Shadowboxing me darker side that's protected by the candle's light. Stalemate fights in which the sight of a white towel is never seen. Till break of dawn when the bell rings and all that remains is a wax stain upon the mantelpiece. things could be worse. I've seen one too many candles have been lit recently. Ones that illuminate memorial walls and church halls that are scattered with pictures of familiar faces and past acquaintances. The lads you'd say hey to in the street, or friends of friends that you'd meet every once in a while. Now it's fading smiles and teary eyes around the candlelit vigil and messy scribbles in a book of remembrance. It's probably why I'm hesitant to slow down, but also reluctant to keep up. I trust one day I'll find the balance, wherever I have me doubts. So the candle stays alight for now, until the last match is struck or the lighters all run out.
That was Manky Candle by Kev Kennedy. What a journey that was.
So good, isn't it?
My God.
I was under a lot of stress there because, you know, when you're reading page poetry, it's nice, but when you're dealing with a spoken word artist, you don't want to fuck up their poem and you want to give them justice, you know.
And he's got a beautiful, unique way of delivering as well. Like, you know, seeing him is a fucking experience.
Yeah.
Like, I remember meeting Kevy at Chennai maybe a year and a bit ago when I was up doing a thing, and then he got dragged up from the audience because I think Emmett O'Brien knew he did bits, and he came on and stole the fucking gig. Like, he was unbelievable.
The first time I ever did Dublin's Finest, when Emmett was running it was my first ever paid gig, and Kevy was doing it, and it was his first paid gig as a spoken word artist.
Was it? Yeah.
So same gig, first time for both of us.
Yeah.
And I loved him because he had a smoke hanging out of his ear, like a smoke earring.
He likes that earring, doesn't he?
And I was like, unreal.
Some man.
Yeah, but like the thing with Kevy is he's only getting better. He's only getting better. Every time I see him, he's better.
I think sometimes in life maybe you just naturally unlock something that's bigger.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't know what's going on with Kev, but like there's just some beautiful vulnerability that's coming out from him of late, where I just think it's a pleasure to watch him perform of late. I think
the thing is, I think another thing as well is he's gigging all the time. He's constantly working. You know. When you're constantly working, you're constantly sharpening the sword. You're sharpening. You know, you're starting to get better and trying out new things and seeing what works. So the more you do it, the better you get, I suppose. You know.
Yeah.
He's just very busy. So, and then that poem kind of rings true because, you know, he's a very busy man. He's working full time and he's also gigging nearly full time at this stage as well.
Sometimes maybe you don't want to. The pace of life stops you from being that reflective. So maybe there's a nervousness about being reflective, just in case of what you fucking see.
Yeah, yeah. But then also like he like us, like all of us, you know, the scene, it's fucking brilliant. It's great, poetry's great, and to be involved in it, it's like, you know, it gets a bit addictive for you, like, and it's great community as well. And at the moment, and,
for sure,
you know, so you go and meet your mates and you have a bit of crack. It's a social thing, but everybody just seems to be really talented and everybody has a thing, so you get to listen to everybody do their own thing, and everybody gets better by watching each other, you know. So yeah,
for sure. I think just as a side note to that, like the last 2 years of me being a small part of the poetry scene in Dublin has been just one of the most beautiful experiences of my entire life. Like just the warmth of the rooms, getting to meet so many different people and listen to so many talented people speak. Yeah. It's just been a glitter on my life, man. Yeah, I have to say, like, it's great. It is great. And shout out to any one of the guys who are running those nights, because they're just so important. They are. No, that can't be stressed enough. It's an oasis. Yeah. There's like little islands pocketed around the city that people can just go and be themselves, and people who are very, very different. And I love finding out people's day jobs, because you'd never expect what people fucking work at. You'd never, you know. To go on talking about the pharmacy stuff. I never knew that about him. I know, and like, never knew that. There's loads of those moments, isn't there? Yeah, like you never would have thought. Like, I don't know. It's great to see people, you know. But as I said, the if you can share what, like, anybody in Dublin, or actually wherever you are in your city, seek out what's going on with open mic nights and poetry nights, because even if you are not performing, you can have just great chats with people that want to talk to you and want to learn what's your story. Definitely. And you meet people of all different ages and different backgrounds and stuff like that. So like, you always meet really interesting people. You do. And it's just a great community to be a part of, you know, and it's a good thing for people to have. So yeah, I agree, man. Yeah. Agony Aunt, we've got an Agony Aunt sent in, and we got it today. And I'm interested to see what you think about this. So the Agony Aunt message that came in was, how do I commit to routine in my life? Interesting.
How do I commit to routine?
That when I first read that, I was like, this is coming from someone who is not trusting of routines, like motives.
Yeah.
He's untrusting of routine. Like routine is like a dodgy fella in the corner, trying to get him to do things that he doesn't want to do.
I changed my laboratory for a workshop. So I was down banging chisels, greasing chainsaws.
Yeah.
Doing a lot of drilling, and I've metal worked my way into a poem.
Amazing.
It's called Routine.
Nice.
And it's more of a people trying to get a routine for better habits, to be a better version. We're talking about the gym. We're talking about that kind of feeling better. So somebody who's kind of a bit lost and is looking for more routine but doesn't really know how. So this is from the workshop. Routine. I feel a bit lost and a bit out of place. Like I'm running in circles at an outrageous pace, have bigger black bags than a bin man taking up space as if they're scooping up real estate on the monopoly board that is my face. Definitely in need of a change and a bit of routine. Throw away the takeaways and eat cleaner than Listerine. But old habits die hard. And I'm not sure what to do. Seems every prick is running 10Ks now and I can barely tie my shoes. But how do you eat an elephant? I suppose one bite at a time. So I'll make small little changes day by day and everything will work out just fine.
Routine.
There you go, from the workshop.
Straight from the workshop.
I love these little prompts. I love these little agony things.
Yeah.
Unreal.
And yeah, I'm with you. Like, there's I think just looking at like chaos as something that we accidentally trip into and do. I think as soon as you realise that like routine and structure is the canvas that you can then paint on.
Yeah.
I know where I read that somewhere, but I read it somewhere.
It's really nice.
And since then, I've just been thinking, right, if I get the things that make the bed, do the cooking, make the bed, go to the gym, sweat it out, then it gives me faith of the adventure that you're looking for, rather than maybe living in the adventure and not watching out on the things that you need to do to make sure you're not losing your head like the person is that you're talking to in that poem. Yeah,
like routine is great in a way that if you do a small thing every day, you can make massive changes. And I remember hearing a quote before, so do a lot of sport and do some competitions and stuff like that, not just in poetry but in sport, or if I'm doing the running, whatever it is, and it says you do not rise to the level of your expectations, you fall to the level of your training. So if you do something every day in whatever capacity you can, and you do it every day or most days, in a year, in 2 years, in 3 years, you could be a completely different person and you can do whatever you want. And I think running for me, when I first, like, I had my quarter life crisis when I was 22. I came back, I was living in Lanzarote, I was working 54 hours a week, I was getting paid €3.50 an hour, and I was drinking every day because I was 22. And I came back and felt like fucking shite, like, and I had a bit of a freak out. I remember having a conversation with my mum, and I was like, so things need to change. So I gave up the smokes, and then I didn't want to get fat. I didn't want to, lose the run of myself because I love eating. So I started running, and running was the first time in my life I had a bit of structure, a bit of routine. And I went from, again, huffing and puffing my way to doing a 5k, to a 10k, to a half marathon, to a full marathon. And after I did a full marathon, it's like something just kind of clicked in my head, and I was like, I can do anything if I put enough effort into it, and if I do it day by day by day, little small steps. I can, because I've seen myself not being able to run to the fucking bus to be able to run a marathon. So I was like, with that, it can change something in you, and a little bit of routine can be good. I'm not saying your whole life has to be structured and disciplined, still go for pints, still have kebabs at 2 o'clock in the day, the odd time, but routine can help, and little small changes can do that. So
I think that's a beautiful message to leave the show on, man.
Thank you very much.
As always, we'd love to hear from you. So if you want to send us some poems, please do. Follow us on the Instagram. It's The Poetry's Dead Podcast. Email address, thepoetrysdeadpodcast@gmail.com. The TikTok has been nicer of late. I think people that are following us have been a bit more sound. So that's good. So keep that going. And I want to leave the show today just as at the start of the show, we tributed Paddy Downey, who we lost. I want to... I'll tell you a joke, the last things that Paddy had said to me. So, what do the monkeys get for lunch at the zoo?
What do the monkeys get for lunch at the zoo?
An hour.
Oh my God, that's fucking brilliant. That's such a dad joke.
I know.
That's amazing. The simplicity.
Yeah.
Unreal.
I love that. I love
it.
One. Leon, thanks for your time as always, pal.
Always a pleasure. Never a chore, Ryan, baby.
See you next week.
See you next week.
See
Bye.
you, lads. Bye.